So now we are on YouTube too. Hello, people from YouTube. My name is Gabriele, and today I'll guide this immersion here about podcasts. So let me explain a little bit how TNT works. TNT is a language platform for beginners, intermediate, and advanced speakers. Immersion meetings are not regular classes, so I'm not a teacher, I'm a student too. And the goal of this immersion is just to put in practice your English skills, okay? And just to enjoy these immersions in a better way, we have some rules. So the first of all is to be respectful. The second one is don't be afraid to make mistakes here. So here we are in a safe place, so feel free to make mistakes here. And the third one is to have fun, okay? And as we are in 7 people here, I will create another room. So just to make the conversation flows better, okay? So guys, if you receive an invite to go to another room, please accept. If you know, stay in the main room, okay? And see you soon. Have a good conversation. So let's get started. Márcio, can you introduce yourself, please?
Yeah, my name is Márcio Nunes. I live from my city, de Linhares, the state of Espírito Santo. I'm 44 years old. I'm married. I live with my wife and my son. I have a little dog. I'm a student administration, this moment, my life. I'm studying English. I intend to start to study Spanish soon. But I'm working the quality control in the industry near with me. I like a lot this topic about podcast, this meeting tonight.
So let me ask you, how many years are you married with your wife?
My wife, I'm married during 21 years. This year, 22. Long time.
Oh my God, congratulations. So Jairo, can you introduce yourself, please?
Sure. My name is Jairo. I'm living here in São Paulo. I'm here to learn English and keep my skills to express my ideas. And I live with my dog, 2 cats, and that's it.
What about the name of your cats and dogs?
The name of my dog is difficult to explain. Let's go with my cats. Jujuba, it's one of them, and the other one's Tom from Tom and Jerry. The name of my dog, I need to tell you a long story, otherwise you will be scared.
Okay, no problem. So I
All
really
right.
like Tom. I had a cat in the past when I was a child with the same name and with the same reason. So Fernando, can you introduce yourself, please?
Yeah, sure. I live in Brasilia. I am 33 years old. I work in a government agency, the environment protection field. It's kind of boring sometimes because it's very bureaucratic, but I do like working there because I like the feeling of being part of some something in this area of environment protection. I stand for this area. But as I said, it's kind of boring. So I've been studying languages lately. I want to change my professional path to this path with languages. And I've been here on TNT since December. And since March, I'm also a host here. And I really enjoy attending these meetings.
That's nice. And tell me one thing that you like most in your city.
I really like the city park here. It's close to my house. It's a shame that I don't go there. It's been a while that I don't go there, but I really like there. It's known. It's the biggest park of Latin America, and it's here, and it's beautiful.
That's so nice, the biggest one. I really like it. So the question number 2, let me see. Marcio, are you a podcast listener? How often do you listen to podcasts?
So in my case, I like to listen about podcast. I listen the podcast, the name Inglês online, in the platform Spotify and Deezer. But nowadays, the name podcast is different because the success in the YouTube is more about the platform. I see the podcast Os Sócios, the Bruno Perini in the YouTube, and another podcast I like to watch when I have time, because interesting the happening in the room about the podcast, you can see the people. But nowadays, two types about podcast, and listening and to see about YouTube. I believe is characteristics different because the new format.
Good point, because you mentioned about different types of podcasts, not just about the topic that the podcast. So one of them is about how to learn English and about English learning and listening, and the other one it's about business, I think so. And both are different in the format, So we'll discuss a little bit about it. I'm not sure about what the number of the question, but I think we have a question about it, about the format of podcasts. And let me have a break in this conversation because I forgot to present myself. So I think you already know about me, but maybe people from YouTube don't know about me. And my name is Gabriele. I'm 31 years old. I live in Rio de Janeiro. I'm a food engineer and I work as a science entrepreneur. I really like to listen in podcasts. So I have a list of favorite podcasts and I listen all day. I think every day I listen podcasts, or I'm listening podcasts or music. And on my free time, I really like to stay with my friends, watching movies and series, stay at home, enjoying my place, or just to hang out with my friends. Here in Rio, we have several places to hang out together. So let's continue the conversation. So Fernando, are you a podcast listener? And how often do you listen to podcasts?
Well, I don't consider myself a podcast listener because it's very difficult. It's not usual for me listen to a podcast because I usually I'm listening to music. But recently, I've been listening podcasts while I'm washing the dishes, doing the dishes. It's a good way to distract from the task and focus in another thing, usually some funny thing or really random. And yeah, I'm not a podcast listener, but I've been listening a little bit.
Yeah, I think it depends of the type of podcast. Sometimes if you are listening a podcast about society or just to have fun, it's okay to do it while you do the dishes. But sometimes, as Mark said, when you are listening a podcast to learn something, sometimes you need to pay more attention. And it's difficult to do another thing while you listen the podcast, you know? And you, Jairo, are you a podcast listener?
Yeah. I love listen podcasts. I would say that I listen more than listen music. Especially when I'm doing something like, as Fernando said, doing dishes or driving. But sometimes I just stop in my house and I wanna check if they already posted a new episode in the podcast, this kind of things, because I love it. And I do it and I listen it for different reasons. Sometimes I wanna learn more of something, and there is some podcasts, they are very specific and they talk about just one topic, and they, like they stress this topic very well in many episodes. And sometimes they are totally random, that they choose a topic and talk about different things, and it depends on the context. But in general, I listen podcasts a lot. Like, a day, I would say that I listen 3 or 4 a day.
Yeah, I think I listen 2 or 3 a day. And I remember that maybe 2 years ago, I'm not this type of person. I just listen to music. When we receive the things that we listen a lot during the year from Spotify, I have the sensation that the result is about podcasts, because I listen maybe 2 or 3 podcasts per day. And sometimes I pass more hours listening the podcasts until and not listen any music. And it's totally different when I think about myself some years ago. So it's something, it's changing my preference to listen to something. And the question number 3, it's about your favorite podcasts. So Fernando, can you share some of your favorite podcasts and why you enjoy them? I know that you mentioned that about you are not a podcast listener, but if you have 2 or 3 to share with us, it's okay.
Well, I'm gonna share one that you know really well because you recommend me, which is Diário de Bordo. They talk about random things. You are way better than me to talk about this podcast, but they talk about random thing, and they are funny, and I can relate to them in a lot of sense, because maybe because of the age, maybe because the things that they go through, and I really enjoy. It's nothing serious, just random things, and I think it's funny, and I like doing the dishes, listening to them. And you are the guilty one for that.
So I don't have words to tell you, because this is my favorite podcast, and this is totally randomic. And I don't know if I really like this podcast because of the people that are in front of this podcast, and they are the same age as me, and one of them is from the same state as me. And it's like a identification process, and we pass through similar things in life. And I really like to listen. I think this is the first podcast that I listen in a day, and then I start to the others that I really like to listen to. And I have others like in Portuguese, I really like to A Noia Minha. This is another podcast about things that we have in life that sometimes you think that's about a problem, but it's a thing that all of us pass through during the life. And I have other types of podcasts more related to documentary or storytelling, like Não Inviabilize, and two from Chico Felice. And the name is Gente, and the other one is Fãs Sem Limites. So it's about random stories of people that are so fan about the band, about a famous person. And the other one, it's about stories from people, interesting stories from people. And in English, I really like to Get Curious with Jonathan Van Ness. Jonathan Van Ness is from a TV show called Queer Eye. And in this podcast, it's like about curious things in life. Sometimes it's related to science, sometimes it's related to food, and it's a random podcast too. And I really like to mingle the podcast called Mingled Little Conversations. It's a podcast for business, and they discussed about some trends in business and innovation things. So let me see, Jairo, can you share some of your favorite podcasts with us?
Yeah, there is many of them. I was trying to remember some of them. Related to business, I like to listen Mackenzie Talks. How did you get a job from Hayes? They are very nice. And at the same time, for me, it's like be updated in my career and things that happen in my area. I like the one that I like it is called Hipsters. I like it. They are very nice. Oh, there's one very interesting because in the video that we saw, they got she said that it's quite new, but not so new. But there is one podcast, the history of it. It's very old, I would say. It's called Roda Viva. Do you know this program? And the structure of it, it's a podcast. They didn't change anything, and it's a podcast. So I don't think that it's podcast something very new. I think that's the way we call it, and how we share, the audio, the video, but the structure of the conversation. One example is Roda Viva. It's a very old program, and still we can listen them and watch on YouTube or even on TV. And I like it, this podcast. I like the one to study, Duolingo. They have a nice one. I like to listen Elevation Church. It's like spiritual things. Yeah, there is many. I just found a new one called John Bersin today, which is a professional one as well, which is very nice. Yeah, that's one of my favorite ones, but there are many others. Yeah, there are many others.
I take notes about some of your podcasts, and it's interesting what you said about Roda Viva. And I think Roda Viva is a good example about how conversation can be a type of podcast. And I think many podcasts are similar to radio when we listen to radio. And I remember that I'm not sure about the name of the podcast, but there is some podcasts that you can play. And it's like this is the hour of the day. This is the news of the day. And then they start with a music and something like that. So similar to a radio program, And you, Jairo. You mentioned two podcasts that you really like it, but if you have another to share with us, please feel free.
Yeah, I just would like to add because while you were talking about the things related to Roda Viva, I was thinking because I think nowadays we are in a perfect moment because there is two things that I think it's very important to the podcasts in general, because they don't have like a structured conversation. It just flow. There is a name of a podcast called it Flow as well. But I think nowadays they call some people to talk, but people inside of internet, they are very restricted. They talk about just one topic, and let's say that someone's called singer about something with the musician. They will go deep in their lives. They will try to know better the person and tell, oh, how do you do what do you do in your free time, these kind of things. So I think podcast is interesting because you can know better people. So that's one thing that is interesting, because let's say about Roda Viva, they are more focused on the political or whatever, but there is an structure, like the conversation is structured. They know there is a framework there. In the podcast, they are more free, and it's like you are at a restaurant or bar and drinking something. Sometimes they really drink something, they are more informal. So I like this kind of thing. I think that's the difference between Roda Viva and the podcast currently.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. And I think this is the reason that we can find some identification of people who are hosting the podcast more easier, in an easy way, than if you are just watching a programming on TV like Roda Viva,
Yeah.
So, Marcio, can you share some of your favorite podcasts? I think you already mentioned it too, but if you have some others to share with us, please feel free.
So in my case, I said about my cell phone. I listen only podcast. I listen the name Inglês online because I started 3 years ago about to improve my my listening English, my comprehension. I like to listen this because I specific the topic English. This moment I watch in the YouTube another podcast. I watch the podcast Os Sócios because I like about the topics and the what's participate this podcast. Another podcast I watch today in my have lunch time. Podcast the fun, the name Ticaricatica Cast, about the interview fun. I like it because one moment relax. I like the live lighted. So he's a little. This podcast I interview your guest today. I watch the interview with Siqueira Júnior. Is very, very fun. I enjoy a lot.
Yeah, and it's good to have specific podcasts from different reasons, like just to have fun, or just to learn something, or just to stay. It's like to stay in atualizado. I forgot the word in English, but stay atualizado in a specific topic, or just to know about I really like a podcast about culture, like music and films, and they bring me a lot of ideas to things that I to watch or listen to, and it saved my time to while I search something to watch or to listen to. So it's good to have different podcasts for different reasons, you know. And I'd like to know about Fernando. How do you incorporate podcasts in your daily routine or lifestyle? You mentioned about when you do the dishes, but if you have another moment in your day that you listen podcasts, please share with us.
Oh my gosh, you all know a lot about podcasts. You know a lot of them, and I don't know a lot of them. I just have 60 years. What I'm doing here, but well, no, actually, I just have been listening podcasts when I'm doing the dishes. Is that because I usually prefer watching things. I'm more kind of a visual person, and I prefer YouTube for that, and also to study to basically everything. And it's funny because you mentioned that it's so broad, the possibilities of a topic for a podcast. And I was thinking this conversation could be a podcast. So it's very,
I think about it. I'm not mentioned it yet, but I think about it.
yeah, and it would be a really nice podcast because we have here so many different immersions about so many different types of subjects. So it would be nice, and there is no limit, as you said, and now you can choose. Like I am more like a visual type of person, so I go for YouTube. Even sometimes when I'm watching the dishes, I like putting my cell phone there and watch something. Yeah.
Yeah, I do the same. Sometimes I just put on my TV the podcasts, and sometimes the podcasts are we can see people talking each other, and it's good. It's like a TV program, and I really like to do it while I maybe have lunch or do the dishes, something like that. And you, Marcio, how do you incorporate podcasts in your routine?
So, about the podcast Inglês online, I use it in Spotify and Deezer. Another moment, I'm working another company. My time, the trajectory, 1 hour go for work and back my house. I forgot the name. Trajeto. The internet is bad, so I download my podcast, my cell phone, where I use not necessary internet. I listen and during 3 years several episodes this podcast. Nowadays, I'm working near with my house. I listen a little this moment. Another moment, I like to listen or watch the podcast in my free time, the have lunch or another moment at my house, because my preference, Fernando said, I like to watch videos on YouTube. My preference to videos about travel another overseas, where the people show the real life conversation in English. I like this content in YouTube. This is my preference.
Yeah, I'm not the person who go to the work and try to listen a podcast in the way. But at work, when I stay in the lab, or if I do something on computer, I I like to listen a podcast if I'm doing something that don't need to pay attention too much. Sometimes if I have a lot of data to analyze, it's complicated to pay attention to the podcast and pay attention to the results. But if I stay in the lab, just organizing the things or preparing something to start a new experiment, it's okay to listen a podcast when I do this type of things. But at home, when I stay at home, I play podcasts when I'm just preparing to go to work, or just when I preparing my lunch or preparing my dinner. It's some moments that I prefer to listen podcasts. And how about you, Jairo?
Well, I think that there is one huge difference between videos, normal videos, I think in YouTube or even on television in general, which fits with my daily routine. Because when I think about, let's say, Roda Viva or something like that, one of the reasons that people usually don't like it because it's so long. It takes more than 2 hours sometimes, and I think people don't. I think generally that people don't like this kind of content on television, but for some reason, at least for me, on internet, I don't like podcast with 30 minutes, 20 minutes. That's my the way that I like it. I like podcasts with more than 2 or 3 hours, and it fits with my routine because sometimes I need to clean my house. I cannot handle everything with just 1 hour. It takes long than 2 hours, And to do it, can you listen to me? All right. And to do it, I choose a long podcast. And for me, it fits very well with my routine. Sometimes when I'm driving to my work, it takes 1 hour and a half. So I can listen the whole episode in podcast just driving. So I have my podcast to drive. I know the ones that takes more attention, and I don't know why, but when I'm driving, I feel more concentrated and I can. I don't know. It's not right, but I know that we need to be aware what is going on around us when I'm driving. But I can focus on the audio when I'm driving, and I prefer those long ones because I like it. And so I think that's another thing that it's very different. It differentiate podcasts from other things because it's very long. Like it takes 3-4 hours, and I can imagine this model on television. Like 1 hour on television is very expensive, and in internet it can be. If you want to do like 24 hours of podcast with someone, you can do it, and it won't cost something for you, not so much as if you were on TV, So for me, it fits with my routine because it takes long. I don't like the podcast just, let's talk about it. That's it, guys, for today. Like what? 30 minutes or 20 minutes to talk about one specific topic. I don't think that's enough time to really understand the topic. So that's how podcasts fit with my routine.
That's nice. And about podcasts that are so long, I don't have problems with it. I think when sometimes I start to listen to a podcast and I need to go to the work, and I stop it. And then when I came home, I returned to listen to. This is not a problem for me. And sometimes I try to listen in a more, maybe 2.3 times more, more rapid,
Yeah.
not rapid, the velocity, about the velocity of the sound. I change it to to adapt to the time that I had for listen to podcasts. And it's not a problem with me.
Yeah, there's another thing that's quite near, right? You can speed up the audio. Another thing that you cannot do on television.
Yeah.
But we can. Sorry, Gabi.
You go, please.
We also do that on YouTube, and it's crazy because I think I'm addicted to do that on YouTube, on WhatsApp, on everything basically. So it's crazy because we are getting used to listen to people in a not normal speed, and when we have this kind of meeting in the regular speed, well, it is like that. That's
Yeah,
crazy.
I took some course. Even the courses I do with chill speed. You know,
Everything.
yeah. So I saw a news on TV talking about. I think it was in Marcos Mion show. He was saying that millennials are changing the way they are talk with each other at Big Brother because he was talking about something that happened in Big Brother, and there was two girls talking so fast that he started to say that millennials is starting to talk more faster than ever because of WhatsApp.
Yeah, I totally agree with you, and I think sometimes it's difficult to me, like a course, it's difficult to put in a fast way, but maybe podcasts and audios, WhatsApp audios, and some YouTube videos, like I don't know, I really like to watch I forgot the name, Casimiro videos, and sometimes I put in a fast way because some videos are more long than others, and I try to watch everything that I can in the time that I have to do it. So it's a good strategy to change the velocity and watch in a fast way. And guys, we have time to one more question, and I really like to know that if you create a podcast today, what would it be about? Márcio.
So, in my case, at this moment in my life, I'm studying English a lot. I believe is the topic I would like to speak because I learned during 5 years. I can help another people about English. I know I need to study more, but this possible about create a podcast for me is not really use the experience about create one podcast, but in the future I think about it.
Maybe just to share your experience to learning as an English learner, and maybe point at your advances in English and your experience in English. It's nice to listen people that are in the same process as you. So maybe people that are trying to learn in English could be your public, so the people that are listening to about your experience in English and how do you improve your English or study English and what else. So things like that. And you, Fernando?
I think I would do the same, something about languages, because I'm really into that, and it's easier to do something that we are into, and it's part of our routine. It's easier to talk about those things, or maybe movies, because I really enjoy talking about movies as well. I had an experience writing some reviews, so it's something that I really enjoy to do as well. Or music, I don't know, there are so many nice possibilities, so random things maybe. Yeah.
One day I discussed it with my best friend, about to create a podcast just to talk about random things in life, about something strange things that happens in life, or strange questions that we have during the life. But it didn't work. We cannot create a podcast until now, until at this day. But sometimes, maybe in the future we can create this podcast. I won't mention the title because it could be a surprise. But in the future, if we create this podcast, I will share with you guys. But it's not a plan. It's just an idea. And it's like we start to discuss each other, like, oh my God, it's funny if you create a podcast to talk about this topic. And oh, I have another idea, maybe to talk about this experience that I had in the past. And we put this all together. We created a group on WhatsApp, but until now we don't do anything about how to record the podcast and how to put in a platform. We didn't study about how to create a podcast, so I'm not confident that we will do this in the future, but we have an idea. And it's just about random things in life. And you, Jairo?
Oh, there is many possibilities. I think let me try to give you some ideas, but I don't think that I have thinking about it. So I don't really have a topic, but I do think that a good podcast should be created with different people in different episodes. What I mean by that, I already had some friends ask me to try to create a podcast, and we tried it, and we figured out that a podcast work at least until now. I don't know about the future, but until now, with different people inside our podcast. So if you are trying to create a podcast with just your friends, probably it won't work, because people like to see different perspectives. So in general, I think that it works when you invite someone else to discuss about something. When you have 3, 4, 5, 7, 10 episodes with the same people in the podcast, it starts to be like not boring, but they are expecting a different perspective, and they and the public in general, they think that they already know you. So I think to choose some podcast, to start a podcast, you need to choose a specific topic, and this topic must be we must have a lot of I don't know how to explain that, but there is something in YouTube, they call it, let me see, I forgot the name. You are the owner of that specific knowledge, this thing, like, I don't know in English, but ambassador or something like that. There must be a lot of those persons, because with that you can invite them to talk about something. Yeah,
it's a good idea, because we can have a different point of view of the specific topic, or just to discuss with different things, but maybe we have the main topic, but we can discuss different things about related to this main topic. It's a good idea. So hello guys again. Let me see, Ayla, did you like the conversation?
Yeah, it was so good conversation. We can share some, I don't know, our point of view about the difficulty to understand some different accents, and how the podcast improve our learning, and you can get more vocabulary, and it's so helpful for us. So you are so good. Thank you for this topic.
Thank you, Laila. And let me ask you, do you have a favorite podcast?
A favorite? I use podcast to study, to improve my listen, because I have difficulty, and because I don't know, it's so difficult because there are a lot of accents, and I don't have a specific, but I use to study, to improve my learning English. So especially English, I know that there are a lot of podcasts about several subjects, and but in the moment I only use it to study English.
Okay, thank you for sharing your experience with podcasts. And you, Gabriel, did you like the conversation?
Yeah, for sure. It was a good conversation, like Laila said, mainly about the English podcast, because me and Ayla use it to listen only English podcast, and Wesley another subject. And for sure, it was a good conversation about accent, about like this kind of podcast help us to improve our English, to increase our the vocabulary listening, mainly. So it's a good subject. Thank you for bringing this one.
Oh, thank you for sharing your opinion. And you, Wesley, did you like the conversation?
Yeah, of course. It was a good conversation. We deviated the questions a little bit, and we started about learning speaking English, right? The difficulties, the accents of the different nationalities. So, but that's it. It was a good conversation.
And if you were to create a podcast today, what would it be about?
Oh yeah, this one we already answered. My answer for that one, I think, is two subjects. The first one is about personal finance, because I have some knowledge about the finance, the investment as well. I have investment as well, so it's the first one. The second one would be technology, like data engineering or computer science or some kind of things like that, right? That's it.
That's good. If you create a podcast about financial things, please share with me, because I really
Of
like
course.
to know about investment and something like that.
Yeah, I
So,
think the first thing that the people have to see is read a book called O Homem Mais Rico da Babilônia. It's a book that I think is important to read, and it's how I can say is I don't know, it's a required read to start to finance,
yeah. So guys, unfortunately, we don't have time to discuss more about this topic, but I put on the chat the survey, and you can put a note from 1 to 10 about this immersion, and you can share your thoughts, maybe an idea for another immersion. I think that the next immersion will be discussed. It's not a specific topic, but we have random questions about a fun conversation. So I hope you really enjoy the next immersion, and we can have fun together and practice English, okay? So thank you for your time, and have a good week, a rest of week, and have a weekend, okay?
Okay,